In early 2026, a war kicked off in the Middle East that didn't just rattle the region, it sent a massive shockwave through the entire global economy and totally redrew the map of power. So, we're going to break down how this all started, how it played out, and what it really means for the rest of the world.
All right, let's jump right in. The best place to start is with the immediate global fallout, which all kicks off in one of the most critical waterways on the entire planet. This is the question the world suddenly had to answer, right? Because Iran, fighting for its very survival, hit back by shutting down the Strait of Hormuz. And just like that, a fifth of the world's oil supply, poof, it just vanished from the market. At the same time, a huge amount of natural gas stopped flowing too. We're talking about the biggest energy shock in 50 years, happening almost overnight.
But here's the thing, this was so much more than just an energy crisis. I mean, look at these numbers. Nearly half the world's urea and a third of its ammonia, these are essential for fertilizer, were suddenly cut off. That's a direct threat to global food supplies. Then you've got critical industrial stuff like sulfur and aluminum, and even a third of the world's helium, which you need for making semiconductors. All of it suddenly trapped.
So the big question is, how did we get here? How did it all escalate to this point? Well, for that, we have to rewind to February 28th, 2026, the day an absolutely unprecedented military campaign began.
It was a joint U.S.-Israeli campaign, and they gave it the codename Operation Epic Fury. And its goal was brutally simple and devastating. Take out the Iranian regime's leadership, starting at the very, very top.
The opening wave of attacks was just overwhelming. And in those first few hours, they actually achieved their number one goal. Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, was killed in those initial strikes on Tehran.
But, a war like this doesn't just pop up out of thin air. Not at all. It's really the explosive finale to decades of simmering tensions and confrontations that just kept escalating.
And you can literally trace the path right here. It starts way back with the 1979 revolution, which set Iran on a collision course with the West. Then you have the collapse of the nuclear deal, which ramped things up. And then in 2025, there was this limited 12-day war, kind of like a dress rehearsal for the main event. Every single step made this bigger war more and more inevitable. But those first shocking strikes, that was just the beginning. The strategy of the campaign evolved really quickly, moving past just targeting leaders and into a whole new, much broader second phase. So phase one was all about tactics. Go for the head, take out Iran's military and political command, smash their missile sites, and basically neutralize their ability to fight back in a coordinated way. But then the playbook changed. The strategy shifted to full-on economic strangulation. The strikes started hitting targets that were crucial to Iran's ability to even keep a war going. We're talking steel factories needed for military hardware, and even key logistical points like the B-1 bridge, which was used to move missiles around. Now, this is where it gets really interesting, because you can see just how precise this second phase was. It was a systematic dismantling of Iran's military-industrial machine. So, for example, look at Hajir, 88 structures destroyed, which stopped missile assembly cold. Over at Sharud, the strikes took out their ability to produce solid fuel for their ballistic missiles. It was a very targeted effort to cripple Iran's war machine from the inside out. Okay, so that's the military story. But the political fallout has been every bit as dramatic, if not more so. It has completely redrawn the power dynamics of the Middle East. So what does a cornered Iran do? It lashes out, but not just at the US and Israel. It also started firing on Gulf nations like the UAE, Kuwait, and Bahrain because they were hosting American forces. Suddenly, they had to deal with a constant barrage of drone and missile attacks. And this has created a really fascinating split between two allies who have been on the same page for a long time. On one side, you've got Saudi Arabia, who's being super cautious, basically pumping the brakes because they're worried a bigger war will totally wreck their huge economic plans. But on the other side, the UAE is hitting the gas, publicly telling the US to finish the job and taking a much, much harder line. And right into this diplomatic vacuum, a whole new group of players is stepping up. And they see this conflict and the way to solve it very, very differently.
So what you're seeing is the creation of this Islamabad quartet. You've got Turkey, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt all trying to step in as mediators. And their goal isn't just to stop the fighting. They're trying to set themselves up as the architects of a whole new regional order, one where they are the ones holding the balance of power.
Meanwhile, what's the message coming from the United States? Well, it's kind of mission accomplished. but also not really. The White House is claiming its objectives are almost met, but at the same time saying the strikes are going to continue, even while all these new diplomatic talks are starting. And all of this leaves us with one final, absolutely critical question. This war has completely shattered the old way of doing things in the region, but what's going to rise from the chaos? Is it going to be a wider, even more devastating war, or could it be the start of a new, incredibly fragile kind of peace? That remains dangerously uncertain.